Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Today we're joined by David Lennett, Director of Sales for Universal Audio, and we have Aux, the amp top box here. Now this is a pretty cool device that does a lot of different things.
Yes, Aux basically allows you to use it with your tube amplifiers and allows you to get the most out of them at any volume in any sort of playing situation.
Right. So we've got an attenuator here that drops the volume down. We'll take a look at that. And actually it can function as a load box. You can turn the speaker off completely.
Yep.
You've also got emulation that allows you to feed directly into your console, directly into a recorder. You can use this for rehearsal, for practice, recording at home, on stage. It really is a kind of universal tool from Universal Audio. How's that for a clever?
Yes, there you
go. For putting your tube amp to work.
Yes, yes, and so to start with, like you said, it's a load box and an attenuator, but it's a reactive load box, which is different in that it acts like a speaker. It's loading the power amp of your amplifier the way it wants to be loaded.
Right.
If it didn't do that, then you would get odd dynamics. It wouldn't feel right. So it just works.
Right.
And really, we're building on sort of Universal Audio's, decades of experience in the analog domain and bringing it to a guitar product, which is kind of new for us, which is fun for me as a guitar player, for us as guitar players, right?
I mean, that's always been one of the complaints with attenuators, right, is that you plug in and not only does your tone change a little bit, but it just doesn't feel right. It feels squishier, it doesn't feel as tight.
Yep.
And this really, with that reactive load, again, that's a very different thing than a normal passive, just a resistor or whatever.
Well, the first Marshall head I ever bought, I bought an attenuator with it that I won't name, but it was going back many years. And as soon as you turned it down, it would get all splatty on the top end, and it would get all weird and squishy in a bad way.
Right.
And you get none of that with this. So essentially the setup we've got right here is Aux is, we're coming out of the speaker output of the Deluxe into the input of Aux. It's able to then attenuate it, and then it comes out back into the speaker of the Deluxe. And so right now, we've got this Deluxe set up around 6, where, kind of a sweet spot, getting a little bit of crunch. And if we weren't going through this, it would probably be too loud even to be gigging in a club, really. It's just loud. And we're down. And I'm still getting all the dynamics that I would expect to get out of this thing if we're blazing loud, where I can turn down. But I can still nail it.
Right.
And I can even bring it down further to where it's really...
Almost the strings on the guitar are almost louder.
Yeah, I mean, we can just talk over it very, very comfortably. And it's got basically, 5 different levels of attenuation, from pretty much all the way up to completely off.
Right, right. So we can make it totally silent.
Yep.
Which brings us to more of what this box does.
Sure. So, like this, you can just use it, turn your amp down, use all of your guitar amps, and in situations that would really not be possible, whether it be live or just in your man cave jamming along with tunes. Yeah. So then I can also just turn it completely off, the speaker outputs, and get into the sort of digital side of things and all of the physical models that we've done of cabinets and microphones and rooms, and able to deliver just a fully produced guitar tone.
Right.
So I can just do it with headphones. I have a headphone output here, so again, you're not tied to having to have a big studio or something. You can just throw on headphones and practice. And I don't even need the control of a computer or an iPad. I can just go to my rig knob, and I've got 6 different preset rigs. So here, now I've got basically this same Deluxe now going through a 4x12 cabinet, our model of a 4x12 cabinet. And so if we look on the iPad here, you get a representation of what that preset is right there. And you get a little bit more chug out of it from there. Now, if I go here, the next preset here is basically our model of a deluxe style cabinet, but a tweed deluxe style cabinet with a Jensen in it. So more what we heard here, actually.
Okay.
So more of a, if I clean up again and get. But can still push it and get a real natural. And you can hear here, the reason that we've called that knob rig is because it really, you're getting a whole preset rig where you've got the cabinet, you're choosing the different microphones. Right now we've got a plate reverb on, and we've even got some ambience from the room.
Okay.
As well.
So, right, so you're delivering a complete signal then, whether into a PA
Yep.
or into a recorder.
Yep.
That basically is just as if you've taken a microphone, put it on the cabinet, and also had room mics set up.
Yes, yeah, and that's a big part of it. Just like the active load affects the feel,
Right.
so much of the feel when you're playing is the room and the early reflections you get.
Right.
So the same sort of physical modeling that we did in Ocean Way, our plug-in, we put into modeling our own studio out at Universal Audio,
Right.
for the ambience on this. So if I want to dig in and not just use the presets there, now I've got under cabinets, I can choose between 17 different cabinets. So I can take this amp right here, here's a 1x12 black deluxe model. I can grab that, and then that comes up there
Okay.
as my photo. And then I can choose 2 different microphones and choose between any of 7 different microphone options. So right here I've got a 57 and a model of based on a Royer 121.
Okay.
And mix those 2 together. So basically kind of what you would expect to find in a studio. And I'm going to turn off the reverb so we can kind of hear it. So very close to what we heard right here in this room.
Right.
But as I bring this in, you can start to hear the room. And the whole thing starts to breathe a little bit more too. So you can even just, if you want to really hear the room, I can solo it and you get a.
Right.
I can deaden the room a little bit, put this dampening, it actually puts in a rug.
Nice. So you can even customize the room, basically, that you're working with.
Yep. So even just that room, and I can mix that in, and have it super like close mic dry kind of a sound, or blend in more of kind of a far away thing, or just having the ambient mics in there as well. Another big thing here, these are not just sort of impulse responses. There are plenty of people using IRs and they work great, but
Sure.
This is a physical model of a speaker. And a lot of what we learned when we were modeling the Deluxe, which James Santiago was here showing that to you a while back,
Right.
Our model of the 55 Deluxe, was about what speakers did and how they change over time, and just, and again, how they kick back to the amplifier and really create this symbiotic relationship. So these are physical models with the same kind of detail that we put into modeling Neves and APIs and all the other things that we do on the U82 platform. So we have this thing here called speaker drive, which as I turn it down, you can hear. Bring a little bit of room out of that. It's sort of like a newer speaker, not being pushed as hard, stiffer kind of a cone. Now as we turn this up, we start to get more cone breakup, it compresses more.
Okay, so we're using, at this point, you had mentioned you can control this right from the box itself just by choosing the rig, and you preset those, I'm assuming, using the iOS app or your computer.
Or your computer.
Now, how is the iPad communicating with aux? Is it a wired connection? Is it Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, or what are we using
It's
here?
via Wi-Fi right now.
Okay, so is it all configured so you just set up and your iPad sees it and you're ready to go right out of the box?
Yep, it just sees it like it would see your router, and there's a password on the back, and you just log into your aux, and then you can control it with the app here. Yeah.
Right. So just to be clear, you don't have to take your iPad to the gig.
No, that's part of the, one of the great things about this is that, and even just looking at the aesthetic of it, we really wanted it to kind of just blend in seamlessly to your sort of classic tube gear. And to that end, we don't want you to sort of have to be impeded by the technology. You can rarely even turn on your computer and your iPad, and as long as you have your rigs that you like, you can throw on headphones and play, or record direct out. In a live situation, you can obviously use it to keep your stage volume under control, really get your amp to its sweet spot. You can still mic up the amplifier.
Right.
Have both. Which not every other load box out there will allow you to do that. Very often it's just either you kill the amp or you don't.
Right.
So this you can attenuate, and you can take the output and send it to front of house.
Right.
Which, how many gigs have you showed up for, and the sound guy just drapes an SM57 over the amp after he goes, is that 112 or 212? And you know that there's no real attention to the kind of tone that you're getting out of your amplifier. Certainly not as much as generally any of us have put into working on our tone with pedals and amps and everything.
Sure.
So you can really deliver exactly the sound you want to front of house and have complete control over it.
Right, and it's one less open mic on stage, which is always a good thing too.
Exactly.
So when you're in the studio, this has a pair of balanced line outputs on the back for feeding PA or recorder in analog domain.
Yep.
Does it have digital outputs as well?
Yes, it also has a bit of out.
Okay,
well.
so you run that directly.
Out, yeah.
And there's a USB port on the back for hooking to your computer?
That's really for updates at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Everything else is handled by Wi-Fi.
Yep.
From the computer or the iPad.
By Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Another sort of interesting thing too is that we put mirrored the controls on the back upside down, so when you're leaning over your amplifier, you can actually read it. Which that was a nice touch.
No, if you just had a flashlight back there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've also got a Friedman BE50 Deluxe here. Why don't we switch over and listen to what that sounds like through the aux?
Sure. Sounds great.
Okay, so we've switched over, so we're now playing through the BE50 Deluxe and running it through aux, of course. Take us through some of the options here in the app on the iPad.
Yeah, so, even with an amplifier like this, which has a master volume, it still sounds a lot better when you start to get the power section really engaged, right? You can just, the amp breathes a little bit more, so we've got the master kind of kicking pretty hard there right now. Again, we've got all these different cabinets that you can choose from. I'm going to grab a 4x12 here, make a sort of a half stack, but with vintage greenbacks.
Okay.
And then we've got these two different microphones we can choose from. So, and they can both be panned wherever you want. They can be positioned off axis or on axis, and then you have a low end kind of a roll off. So we've got a 57 right there now. I'm going to go for more of a vintage vibe and grab this vintage dynamic 421. And I'll go for this ribbon 160 here. put that off axis and kind of darken it up. So now I'll get kind of the meat of my sound with the rhythm, with the ribbon. And add in some sort of top from the 421. Don't have very much room there. Again, I can sort of take out the rug and get more room there. And then if I want to add more effects, I have this whole master section over here as well. So each of those microphones has an EQ on it that I can control. The room has an EQ. The room actually has a whole bunch of different microphones I can choose. Either I can make it stereo or mono. And then I have the master effects. So I can grab an EQ here, which basically comes up as a graphic EQ, or I can even get in and manipulate more of a parametric EQ and set the cue points for that graphic, which is pretty cool. Of course, we have the 1176.
Right.
So if I want to start squashing that a bit. Sort of classic compression there. I can back that down a little bit. You can even start to hear the room breathe a little bit, just like you would.
That's amazing.
So there's the 1176. I can add delay if I want. And then, of course, we have a plate reverb, basically based on our true plate.
So you're delivering a fully produced sound.
Fully produced sound, yeah.
Right.
You can choose for any of these microphones a DI as well if you want. So you can choose to just not have any cabinet modeling at all.
Okay.
And then add your own IRs. You know, so the options are pretty limitless. You can keep your amplifier on, mic up your amp.
Right.
Right. You could capture, say, one mic in a cabinet, a DI, and then you've got the options of adding your own IRs later, plus using the real amp, and the ability while you're in the control room in your studio to audition all of these different things.
Right.
So it's just incredibly versatile, and then of course any of those can be saved as presets, saved to the rig, walk away with your aux, and then you're kind of able to use it in any situation.
So your exact same sounds you had in the studio, you can take on stage with you right under this control.
Yep. Yeah. Another kind of cool thing to hear is, I mean, we're just going through that 4x12 there, but go the opposite direction. Grab like a 10-inch speaker here and add a bunch of room as well.
Right, dramatic difference.
Yeah, big difference.
As you'd expect, of course, going from a 4x12 to a 1x10.
Sure.
And this is a super versatile solution.
Yeah.
Studio, stage, practice at home. I mean, what could be better than that? Plug your headphones in and you have a fully produced sound to play with.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere from just with your tube amps and your pedals and just using it with headphones, or being able to turn it down and actually and just without any of the modeling, to having it in the studio, miking up your amp, and having all these other options as well. So
right, very cool.
To live and not having to deal with a 57 draped over your amp. So very, very versatile.
Right. David, thanks so much for coming by and showing us the aux, the amp top box. Very cool. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Check it out in the studio and try it on some tracks.
Thank
It's going to be
you.
a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. Always great to be here.
And great playing as always. I always
Thank you.
enjoy listening to you play.
Thanks. It's fun.
And thank you for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.